here. We have a 2-year-old that has a published poem at Capital Stationers, and we have 92-year-old.
Wow.
So, and every age in between. And we have school kids, and we have college kids, and seniors. We just have a lot of different voices, a lot of different programs, and it's really great that you're here tonight. Poem City happens because we have sponsors. Vermont Humanities Council, Vermont College of Fine Arts, Hunger Mountain Co-op, National Life Group Foundation, and the Poetry Society of Vermont. I have trouble saying that 2 out of 3 times. And George Longenecker is the president of the Poetry Society of Vermont. I'm glad that he's here. He is also on the Poem City planning team, which makes my life much easier. And so tonight's program, Native Music and Poetry, is with 2 very special people. Bryan Blanchette and Roland Bluto are citizens of the Nulhegan Band of the Coosuk Abenaki. Bluto has been writing poetry for about 25 years. And he says, my poems are about my proud path I walk being native. That also includes nature at times and very personal writing. Bryan Blanchette, a Berklee College music alum and a member of Blackhawk Singers, started pow-wow drumming in 1996 and began writing songs in Abenaki in 1998. Beautiful music and Abenaki heritage combined to create one of New England's most original artists. So we will have music, and then we'll have poetry, and then back to music and back to poetry. And at the end, we would love to hear comments, questions, and conversation. So please help me welcome Bryan and Roland.
Kwaili da Bakin, Deluisi to Kutmitash, Ta Unuski sees along me with Zoix Senechal, Niandaki. So, I are my friends. My name is Strikes Twice, and where the Little Winooski flows along the mountains of stone, that would be Graniteville. That's where I live. That's my land. That's my place. This is a song that was first written for the Blackhawk Singers, and we literally played this on a picnic table before the first time we played it in public at a big powwow in New Hampshire. So, and I ported this over to guitar. This is Kwai. This is a greeting song. So a few years back, Blackhawk Singers were invited to provide music relief for a symposium at Dartmouth College on sacred water. And we just learned that one of the schools had tested 100 times higher for uranium than the federal government allowed. And we were hearing a bunch of different things like that, to the point where one of the women that was there was her son. He told her, hey, don't drink the water at the school. And her 8-year-old son came home and said, I'm sorry, Mommy, but I was thirsty today. So I got to hear the VP of the Navajo Nation ask a woman who's putting on the event, the symposium, he said, who are the Abenaki? You know, we get to hear that a lot, right? And she had just received her doctorate from Dartmouth College on colonialism, so who better to be speaking about this? And she said that she spoke about the resolve of the Abenaki people. So I'm going to do a take on a Tom Petty tune. This is I Won't Back Down, and I translated the chorus into the Abenaki language just to put our own little twist on it. Well, I won't back down. Oh, I won't back down. You can stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down. No, I'll stand my ground. I won't be turned around, and I keep this world from dragging me down. I won't stand my ground, and I won't back down. Evening now, Pasqua, I've got McKinsey, we no storm. Take out easy, and I've done nobody love, where I know what's right, and I got just one right. Nidal Basqua, so, you know, it's kind of funny how, you know, somebody had to explain who we are, right? So our language is part of a bigger dialect, part of the Algonquin dialect, and we actually, per landmass, we took over the biggest map of the Western Hemisphere. So Pocahontas would have been speaking Algonquin all the way across the Pacific Ocean with the Cree and the Inuit. And right now, we still have, so I talk sometimes when I sing the Tom Petty tune, I say, you know, most tribes had 20 years worth of war. We had 100 and hundreds of years of oppression, but we still have our language. Most people don't fully speak it, but there are still some people that have learned it. It's been passed down from father to son, and Jesse Bruchak, great teacher of the language, actually taught his son. So his son's first language in New York was Abenaki, and when he turned 4 and he was getting ready to go to kindergarten, they started speaking English to him. And now his girlfriend is gonna have a granddaughter, and he'll be doing the same thing with the granddaughter. But there's a little subcult of us that are really working with the language, and we're not true speakers of the language, but that line that you heard me say, that's not something I wrote out, and you know, it's from memory, it's from what I know. This is a translation from a Tom Rush song. This is Petticoat Country, and my name came up on a Facebook post on the Nulhegan page, and I'm like, well, what's up with this? So I've translated it, recorded it, and passed it on to Tom Rush, who likes it. But this is Merrimack County, aka Petticoat Country. So down, we get loving. napping a bit too much. But this next one, Don Stevens, you put out a post on Facebook about saying prayers for the elders last year. As I was, living in that bought a foreclosure in Granville that I'm working on, so I'm living in a mess, no TV. Got a couple of young kittens that I rescued, and they're laying in my lap, and I've got a glass of wine next to me, and I'm reading the post. And this next song came to mind. This is Prayers for My Elders. This one's in English, but as my friend Godley said, write some songs, about contemporary Native life. And so. This next one came from after, the shootings down in Florida, at the school in Florida. And I was talking to someone on the phone that was a school psychologist who started crying when they realized that the student resource officer never went into the school. And all the media hype that started following that, and the involvement by the kids wanting to get into civil disobedience, really, right? When you're seeing high school kids doing civil disobedience, and for generations we haven't even really heard about something like that. I was pretty much inspired by that. So, and it kind of ties in some of the, if you think that what's happening to the rest of the population isn't the same thing that happened to our people, you might want to reread history. This is called Truth.
Unlike Brian and several of my brothers and sisters, I do not speak very much of my native language. But I will say, quite way, which is welcome or good evening or hello. I have this all planned out and my mind was blank now. I am a proud citizen of the Nulhegan Band of the Coosuk Abenaki. Nulhegan is the place where the wooden traps are made. Coosuk is people that live in the pines, and the Abenaki are we who see the sunlight first. So we are known as the people that make the traps, that live in the pines, who see the sunlight first. As Rachel said, I started writing probably about 25 or 30 years ago, somewhere in between. My wife was my inspiration. I had lost 2 friends and my mother-in-law, all within a short period of time. And I wanted to do something to honor them. And I didn't want to make a little monument or memorial because eventually that would fall in disrepair. So she suggested maybe I write a story about each. Well, I'm not really a story writer, even though my stories probably poems tell a story. So she reminded me that my father's mother, my grandmother, wrote poetry, and some of her poems were on display down in the chapel years ago. So my first poem that I did was for these 3 people, and because it's so personal, I will not read that one. But I had written several, and I'm sorry. I had written several, and a good friend of mine who lived in New Jersey at the time asked if she could borrow my poems and take them home and read, so I let her take them. And a couple weeks later, she sent them back, and she had put them into a book form for me. And she had titled it The Reflections of Red Hawk being my native name, Thoughts of a Native Man. And so, in the front of the book, she wrote a little story about me, I guess, and I'd like to share that with you. It might help you understand a little bit more of who I am and how I write. So she says, Red Hawk. The reflections shared on these pages are a glimpse of daily events, easy or hard, that have occurred in one man's life. Red Hawk is a Native American of Abenaki heritage who resides in the state of Vermont. He works hard, dances when he drums, laughs easily, and walks with an open heart. He is a son, a brother, a husband, a father, and a grandfather. Keeping in the oral tradition of telling a story without telling all the story, the background of these reflections are not shared. Red Hawk leaves it to the reader or the listener to glimpse the events that is found in the spaces between the words. In this way, we take from each page what is needed, and we learn or remember. These shared thoughts contain universal feelings. We can find connections from whatever ethnic heritage we descend. So, my first one I call My Dreams. And I try not to be political. Sometimes I might throw in a little bit that might sound that way, but it's mostly what is in my heart that I write about. The path that I've been on for close to 50 years. I started in my early 20s. I'll be 73 in June, so. Anyway, my dream. I had a dream the other night. I dreamt our people were not all right. I asked Creator, what shall I do? He said, choose a path and I will walk with you. I chose a path and walked not alone, for others walked with me into the unknown. We did not run, we stand and fight, in hopes our people will be all right. I learned traditions, customs, and songs, so all these can be carried on. The old ways must come back to help our children on the right track. For those who are yet to come, our work here is far from done. For time is short, the end is near. Creator tells us not to fear. If your path is straight and your words are true, Creator will always walk with you. That was the second poem. Can everybody hear me okay? I woke one gray dark day and did not see beauty in this day. I did not hear the small birds sing or see the deer who stopped to eat. I did not look to see the goose or hear the cry of a lonely moose. I did not feel the sun-warmed rays or the gentle rain to wash away. I did not feel the breeze that blew or the clouds above as the day was through. As nighttime fell and day was done, I sat up and wondered what was wrong. Did I not see these things before as I stood and looked out my door? I closed my eyes as day was done and heard a voice from up above. Slow down, my friend, I heard him say, for tomorrow is another day. For beauty is but all around. Just take your time and slow your life down. That was a hectic point in my life and seemed like I've been pulled in many different directions. Sometimes these words come to me and I can sit down and write a poem in just a matter of minutes. Sometimes it takes, I start one and it might take a few months before I finish it. And then sometimes I feel like I am an instrument for the ones that came before me, for those that, voices that still need to be heard. So I try to do my best for them as well as for myself. People sometimes come to me and say, I got a title, can I give it to you and you can write a poem about it? So, a good friend of mine who was a school teacher, and she had all our children through all the years that they were in school, came to me one day and she said, you know, Roland, she said, I walk along the wood lines and the river banks, and she said, down country roads, and she said, I see these little birds' nests all over the place. And she said, if I give you a title, can you write me a poem? So I said, well, I'll try. So she said, how about Cradles in the Wind? So I said, okay. So it goes, cradles in the wind, high up in the tree, empty to the world now, swinging so free. Once filled with little life in days gone by, high up in the treetops, up near Father Sky. These cradles hold a lesson of how life begins anew. With each new season passing, our answers will come through. These cradles tell a story with each new passing day of love and kindness and caring. These cradles show the way. Cradles in the wind, we see them every day. As we walk our path of life, these cradles lead the way. As is my wife. My wife crossed over 7 years ago from cancer. So, but I know she's with me here tonight because she was my inspiration and she pushed me on, and even towards the last of her life, she said, don't forget, you got to keep writing. There was a long time from the time she passed until just recently I started writing again. I called this one a visit. The hawk came to visit me one day and stayed not long, then flew away. He sat in my tree and just looked around, not leaving the tree to fly to the ground. He sat and we looked at each other that day, and I wondered why he came my way. Was it a message or sign he was given to me? Who should I ask or who should I see? And my answer came through so loud and clear as the hawk took off and left me here. He was free to fly, he was free to go. He came back 2 more times on 2 different days. He sat in my tree just looking at me. He has not returned in quite a long time. Perhaps the last was the end of the line. I know he's my friend. I felt it that day when my friend just up and flew away. He was a little hawk, and my tree is probably about from here to that post over there out my front window. He sat there and we looked at, I have a picture of him somewhere. I took a picture. He just sat there and posed. Was like Bryan, I was on a native drum doing the pow-wow circuit for many years. I did it for like 12 or 15 years. I sat on 2 different drums. And the drum is something very special to me. When I'm drumming and sitting on a drum, I am at total peace with myself. And I drum for those that came before me that didn't have the chance for different reasons throughout our history, you know, and a lot of our people went into hiding for those particular reasons. And that's something political, and I'm not going to get into that. But I titled this one The Drum. And you'll notice I try to make my words rhyme, but they all don't rhyme all the time. And I don't go back through and try to change it so it sounds, they come out the way they're supposed to come out. And so that's the way I put them down. So this is called The Drum. A piece of hide, a piece of wood, a song from your heart that will make all feel good. To own a drum is a disgrace, for no one can own that sacred space. To sit on the drum is the highest grace, but to do it wrong is total disgrace. To feel it beat is to feel her heart, for Mother Earth is always a part. Sometimes we forget what the drum is about. She needs to be honored, there is no doubt. It's not for performing or to show off and sing. It's not for power or material things. It's for teaching and learning and respecting and pride. It's more than wood, it's more than hide. It's bringing together, not tearing apart. It's looking at others, not with your eyes, but with your heart. If one who sits on the drum cannot do these things, then the drum for them is no place to be. Like I said, the drum is something very special to me. I hold a lot of respect for it. It might sound a little political, it's really not.
It's okay. I know it's okay.
I call it the view. But I climbed a hill the other day and looked over this piece of clay. I looked through the eastern door and saw it as it was before. The air was so light and sweet, and Mother Earth felt good below my feet. And all the rest was like a dream. The water was so pure and clean. I sat and looked at it today and wondered why it went away. The water is not fit to drink and the air has a terrible stink. We put all kinds of things into Mother Earth, then wonder why there's no rebirth. Did I do this? Was I a part? This question eats at my heart. If all of us would try a little more, I'm sure we could find a simple cure to bring back water, clean and pure, and the air as it was before, and Mother Earth as she should be, to feel so good below my feet. I was at a powwow one time sitting on our drum, and the particular drum I sat on, and there's mixed feelings on this because some people will allow women on their drum, others won't. The drum I was on was an all-male drum, and the women stood behind us and they rattled with their rattles. And one of the women dropped her rattle on the ground and it broke, and she said, "Oh God," she said, "I can't rattle today, my rattle is broken." And so I sat there and I thought, while we were drumming, your mind goes crazy sometimes, and the rattle's not broken. So I wrote a poem about it. It's called Broken Rattles. Broken Rattles, and this woman busted out into tears. I mean, this was a special rattle to her. So it says, broken rattles, crying tears, broken spirits of yesteryears, broken promises and broken dreams, all hope is gone, or so it seems. A rattle tells a story of how life used to be, a once proud people just wanting to be free. The rattle speaks of spirits, promises and dreams, of family ties and happy times and all that's in between. A rattle is never broken, its spirit still lives on. It finds a way of showing us that things are never gone. For life is what we make of it, and rattle show us how by picking up a broken one and listening to its sound. My wife and I used to do a lot of things. Actually, we did everything together. Except when I went to work, she had to stay home and raise the kids. But whenever we got a chance, and we had 5 children, and people would be willing to watch the kids, we'd sneak off for a few days or a week or whatever, and we'd go to Maine or whatever. So anyway, I sat down one day and I wrote this for her. It's called Our Love. We walked the rocky shores of Maine, walked through meadows simple and plain. We've climbed up mountains to their peaks, we've done it all and never had to speak. We raised a family with nothing coming in and watched them grow from small little kids. We did what we always thought was right and never once got into a fight. You've touched my heart and I've seen your soul from our young days to as we grow old. We've always been true without a doubt and never once had a falling out. I trusted you as you trusted me, and that's the way our love would always be. And one fine day as our lives will part and leave the other with a broken heart, remember that one will always wait on the other side until we both meet again in the sweet by and by. To once again walk the rocky shores of Maine and and meadows simple and plain, to climb mountains to their peak, and I'll hold you in my arms for all eternity. I didn't know if I was going to do a picture. I keep going. I'm going to read these all before my time is up. This one I call Mother Earth. Mother Earth is something special because she gives us everything we need. She gives us our clothing, our food, whatever we need, it's always there for us to take. And we don't take but what we leave something in return. So I always, if I pick up a stone or something, I always leave a pinch of tobacco to repay what I've taken. For everything has a spirit, and that spirit must live on. Anyway, Mother Earth. The earth is our mother. She gives us our needs. I've walked in her beauty and I've seen her great deeds. I've seen her great forest and climbed her tall peaks. I've walked through her meadows and valleys with ease. I've swam in her rivers and drank from her lakes. I've seen her great oceans and felt their great waves. I've seen her small creatures and seen her great beast. I've seen her birds fly and the crawlers below. This is her love, for this I should know. Each day I give thanks for all that she gives, and I thank the Creator for allowing me to live upon this place we call Mother Earth. I was sitting on my back deck one day with my wife, and she was drinking her coffee and smoking her cigarette, and I was just gazing around and looking at the world, and I happened to look up at the sky, and the sky was such a beautiful, brilliant blue. So I spoke out loud and I said, I wonder why the sky is blue, so blue. And she put down her cigarette and she looked at me and she said, well, there's your next poem. And I said, what do you mean? She said, you wonder, so wonder. So I called it Wonder. I said, I wonder why the sky is blue, and wonder why they say water is too. I wonder why water is wet, and wonder why we worry and fret. I wonder why up is not down, and wonder what makes a circle round. I wonder why we kill for peace and look for problems from the east. I wonder why the clouds don't fall, but rain and snow will all day long. I wonder where do the breezes come, and wonder where they go when they are done. I wonder why the moon will light up the night sky, and why governments will tell their people lies. I wonder why the sun's so hot. I wonder what makes a mountain top. I wonder now if I should stop, 'cause I wonder what I want more. And then I put a little footnote on the bottom, and it says, to wonder is to question is to learn is to know is to wonder. I guess I've got a few more minutes. I'm trying to stretch it out.
You're fine.
I have a very dear friend that lives way up in northern Maine. And a lot of times I go to him when I need questions answered. And he was originally from Canada, and they sold their house there, and they moved over to northern Maine, and he bought something like 100 or 150 acres of land. And they cut down the trees, and they built their home out of there and everything. And he was out exploring his land one day, and he came across these 3 huge rocks. One was in the north, one was in the east, and the other one was in the south. And so when I went up there, he said, I got to show you this. So he took me up to these rocks. And my daughter was going through some problems some health problems at the time. And so he said, you know, you got to sit here in the west and talk to these rocks, and they'll hear your prayers, and everything will be all right. So he called them the grandfathers, which they are because they're old at their time. So I called my poem the grandfathers. These grandfathers sit in their own special place, calling out to the people of the human race, to give them their hurts, prayers, dreams, and their hopes, and to give them to ease what bothers us most. I've been to these rocks to ask them for help, and each time I've left a part of myself. The first time was for my daughter, who was facing a terrible fate. The next time was for my granddaughters, that they would be born okay. These grandfathers have listened and heard my sad plea, and each time I've asked, they have answered me. I've been there many times in my mind, when things aren't going good, or for guidance from time to time. I've also been there to just sit and think, and to listen to what these grandfathers have to say. Keep walking your path, keep walking it straight, for these grandfathers are with you in your native faith. And I follow my native faith. I was born and raised Catholic, but I get more substance out of my native faith than I do the religious faiths. And I walk in 2 worlds, and that's kind of difficult because I walk in my native world, but I also walk in the white man's world. I don't mean to, but I think you know what I mean. I'm certainly not trying to offend anybody. I was traveling down the road one day with a good friend of mine, and he said, you know, these roads that we're on, these were all Indian paths at one time, and they just put blacktop over them and called them a highway. So I said, well, okay. So I got home and I got to thinking about what he had said, and it made sense. I mean, our people were here 10,000 years before anybody else were, and they didn't have highways to ride on and walk on and everything else, so they made their own paths. And when we came along, we just increased those paths and made them bigger and wider. And so I called it Indian roads. Indian roads, they lead all from here to take me to places I long to be near. Indian roads, which one do I take? What do I want and what places do I see? My ancestors traveled the waters in paths, It took them to places they thought would last. As time went by and those paths turned to roads, these native people no longer did roam. Indian roads from east to west, Indian roads, which ones are the best? I've traveled these roads all through the year in hopes of finding a place that is so dear. And what do I find as I travel along? These roads always lead me to the place I belong. I'd like to read this one. I wrote this one just a few days ago. We have a place over in the eastern part of the state that is very sacred to the Abenaki people. It's a place called Brunswick Springs. I don't know if you people have heard of it or not. If you haven't, Google it. It's on the banks of the Connecticut River, and there's a story behind it. It's protected by our ancestors and the spirits that roam the land there. And part of the story goes that the water that flows there will never be used for any profit. So I call this our sacred springs. There is a place I like to go, a place where 7 different waters flow, a place that brings me lots of peace, high above the river facing east. Spirit protected day and night, keeping it sacred for that is right. If you haven't been there, then you should go to see the beauty and watch them flow. Respect is all we ask of you, for it's always the right thing to do. As I said, this is a very sacred place to the Abenaki people. Must be almost Brian's turn to come back. I'm gonna run out of things to.
Come on, yeah.
You can come on up, Brian.
Okay, thank you.
I'd just like to introduce my chief, Chief Don Stevens from the. Don is our go-to man. He does so much for the people of all our people here in Vermont, of all Abenaki. He doesn't just take care of Nulhegan, he does it for all of us. And we owe him a great deal of debt.
You do it out of love, Roland, you don't owe me anything.
Yeah.
This is a song that was inspired from some artwork by a friend of mine down in White River for the last Blackhawk CD called Moonhawk. It's written by a friend of mine named Jordan Bishad, who sings with us in the Blackhawk Singers, and he has a friend named Tony Moonhawk, so he pulls in a bunch of that stuff, but this is Moonhawk.
Please
this next one, oh my God, back in 1986 was really my first time in Vermont. Came up to visit for a mutual friend of ours that was living in Waitsfield. And on the way back, traveled down 100 and stopped. I think it's, there are falls, Mossland Falls. I don't remember the name of it. But there's a picture of me standing on this moss-covered log. And I'm just, you know, I was in my early 20s, and I'm like, there was a sign down the bottom that talked about all the people that had crossed over or been injured on the falls and don't walk out onto the falls. I was actually kind of amused by it, so I walked out onto the falls and posed. That picture I've had ever since, and when I came back up here to settle into Vermont, I sought that out, and I finally found it. And at the time, I was actually recording something else in my project studio, and somehow it just, while I was recording, I started writing this song. Don't ask me how that happened, but this is called Waterfall. It's about reclaiming my youth. Into this waterfall, discussed Jesse Bruchak, who's also Nulhegan, and he's on a lifelong mission of preserving our language. It's absolutely amazing. But I had somebody singing with us in the Blackhawk Singers who eventually had to move down to Florida. And while we were all having our minds fried with language just coming at us, because in the Abenaki language, you can't double talk. Everything is specific. You conjugate nouns. And depending on the prefix or the suffix you put on to whatever you're doing, so you have to listen to what somebody's saying to understand the actual sentence. So it's a language that's meant to be listened to. Steve Tingley was writing songs. He probably was one weekend, he wrote 3 or 4 different songs, and he had the luxury of having it checked, making sure all the grammar was correct. So he was absorbing everything that was coming at him and writing out songs at the same time with proper Abenaki grammar. This is a canoe song. So just to speak to how profound it is what he's writing, as we paddle upstream to the St. Francis River inside the Birch Bark canoe, this is the Indian way of travel. We travel by canoes for hunting and fishing grounds. And, I mean, he's not just saying simple expressions, he's really spelling it out. Anyways, this is We Rolled Until We're Gone, canoe song. One maybe the first song I wrote in Vermont. This is, I refer to this as an Adele song. So this is called What Are We Doing? This is, I had a friend of mine recently crossed over who played congas for Carlos Santana for like 30 years. And I played in a recording of the Tom Rush song in Merrimack County, and it was wild because he hadn't played since maybe 2003, became a school teacher and an advocate for banning native mascots. But he was sitting in my camper and his hands were going crazy on the countertop, and he goes, I could put in a million different things to this, oh my God. And I went, that's kind of funny because your conga playing influenced my guitar playing. And I actually had a chance to record him And when I listened to what he was doing, I had to re-record my guitar tracks because I was actually like doing stuff that he was doing with my right hand, and I went, wow, this is pretty cool. But he's the one that inspired me to write some songs about contemporary issues, and this is a song called White Dog. I'll leave it up to you as to who I'm talking about, but it's a story of a dog traveling around creating trouble in Daki our land, and yeah. The hook to this is, it's called Ma'a Gau Boak Melaki, which means gather and stand strong.
Several years ago in my hometown, I live in Milton, which is just up the road here, 40, 50 miles. Several years ago, we got a little lake in a town called Arrowhead Lake. And on this lake, there was 8 swans that were living there. I don't know if they ever bred or not. I never saw any of the young ones. But for some reason, the state stepped in and said, Well, they're not native to this area, so they gotta go. So well, my story will tell you. I called it 8 Swans. There's a small lake in my hometown where 8 swans lived almost year-round. They were a symbol of beauty and a symbol of peace. They lived on the shore facing the east. They gave joy to the young and joy to the old, and they had lived there for 8 years, as I was told. But the state stepped in one summer day and said these swans must go away. I begged and I pleaded to save their dear lives, but to no avail, for the state is always right. First they shipped them to Texas to a safe park to be, but these swans returned, just wanting to be free. I drummed and I played on the State House lawn in hopes that the governor would give them another dawn. But he sent his men in with high-powered guns. In a day's time, their job was done. Now these swans' spirit live in a much better place, and our ancestors enjoy their beauty and grace. I think of them often. I feel that I failed, for I am one voice in a very large world. And I did. I called the governor's office, and he referred me to the Fish and Game Department, and the Fish and Game Department referred me to another department. And then I was referred back to another department, and this was a number of years ago. I think this happened in 98. So anyway, their spirit flies free in another place now. And I'm sure they're making our ancestors happy. I often was told that I was not native. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. And that, there again, we're getting into political stuff, and I don't want to go political. But if you don't know too much about the eugenics program here in Vermont, I would suggest you Google it online and read about it, because a lot of my ancestors hid in plain sight. We literally hid in plain sight. And so even my grandfather on my father's side told me that we were not native, even though I can prove that his mother came from Three Rivers, Quebec. She was full-blooded Abenaki. So I wrote this, am I native? Am I native? I do not know. For some say yes and others say no. I feel my native pride inside, but I'm not sure this pride is mine. My head is high, but my spirit is low. My heart says yes, but my mind says no. I cannot prove my native line, for all my older relatives are on the other side. I only know that what I've been told, yet feel my native path was stolen. I'm not a wannabe, for that's for sure. My skin is white, but I feel red like you. If I should find that I'm not red, then the disappointment I would dread. I walk my path, I know it's true, but how could I continue if I'm not red like you? For maybe one day I will learn, for this is what my heart now yearns. Am I native? I do not know. I hope it's yes, but it could not be so. I have long since documented my native side. When I joined Nulhegan, I submitted my paperwork that was about that thick. I get it on 3 sides of my family, 2 on my mother's and 1 on my father's. My great-grandfather on my mother's side was an Abenaki guide up in Swanton, and I have pictures of him sitting in an Abenaki camp, along with his son and 1 of my uncles, or great-uncles. So, I am who I am. I call this one the circle. The circle is a path in life that most of us walk each day. Some choose to stay on this path while others walk away. The circle has no beginning, the circle has no end. When walking the circle straight and true, the circle will never bend. It will teach you how to listen and to what it has to say. It has so many lessons, you cannot learn them in a day. Well, that's for sure. From east to south, from north to west, the circle has it all. Do not be afraid to walk, for it will never let you fall. It will show you how to learn respect, to care, and how to love. For Creator has given us this circle from high up above. To walk it in my daily life, for this He has given me. And when I walk my circle, I know that I am free. Days gone by. As the snow falls, and in Vermont it seems like it's falling all the time these days. As the snow falls and it tells us it's time for us to sleep, I think about the year just past with all its valleys and peaks. I think about the troubled times and friends who went astray. I remember the time we sat and drummed and laughed throughout the summer day. Of walks we took by the lake shore and trips we had to make. I think of the babies that were born and the friends who passed away. And as this year draws to an end, as they always do, we look forward to the spring again and know what we should do. For nothing lasts forever, not snow, not life, nor dark of night. For as we walk our path of life, Creator will keep it right. Seasons of life. Seasons bring us many gifts. The quiet time is a time to wish, to allow us to slow down from our fast pace, to see the love in each other's face. The springtime brings us a time of renew, green grasses and gardens and new births too. Summer allows us for the busy time of the year when each of us run from here to there. As fall comes and harvest is near, a time to give thanks for our gifts of the year, to reflect on our lives and what we hold dear. For some will hold material gains in their heart, like money and greed and power to start, while others will live day to day and let the seasons of life show them the way. The path I walk. The path I walk is special to me. I walk it on our mother as I walk it free. The path I walk has stories to tell. Just listen to the wind and listen well. The breeze will tell of my people and land of giving and caring and offering a helping hand. The path I walk has meaning for me, from its valleys and rivers to its mighty peaks. But if I don't learn and listen well, I could be in for a big, big fall. You thought I was going to say something else, didn't you? The signs are there and the lessons ring true. So now it's up to me and you to take care of our mother as she has cared for me. And maybe the path I walk will keep me free. Remember when we were kids and used to play all day? Remember how we used to talk and laugh at things we say? Remember how we stayed up all night to watch another dawn? Remember all the things we did, some right and some so very wrong? Remember how long the summers last and never seem to end? Remember how close we were, you were my bestest friend? Remember when you moved away and how we said goodbye? Remember how we hugged that day? We both had tears in our eyes. Remember all the things we ever did or things we ever said? I must say this to you, my sis. Of all the sisters I could have had, I would have loved you the best.